I always want to be challenged. I never want to be satisfied with what it is that I'm doing. I want to constantly be challenging myself to see what else can I do? How much more can I learn? How much more deeper in love can I be with my wife and my kids? How much more can I take better care of my body? How much more money can I make? Family. I don't ever want to limit myself on what it is of blessings and resources that God wants to give me. But that requires change. Welcome, family, to the Bacon Bits Podcast, where we desire for you to take the bits of information and immediately apply them to your life for success. The ground rules for our podcast is that it will always be encouraging, uplifting, and informative. The areas of life that we will be talking about on the Bacon Bits Podcast is dealing with having a balanced life, spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, and in relationships. So it's these 5 words that we say on every podcast. And I would love to have you say them out loud. Please say valuable information applied equals success. And what are we going to be talking about on this wonderful episode today is change. Change. Just some people hearing that word, it is a blow to their spirit because most of us hate the change. And one of the many, many pieces of elements to the wonderful subject of change is that, guess what, fam? Whether you want it to happen or not, it's going to happen. Okay? Change is inevitable. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Life is always and will continue to always change. And that's one of the many points that we have because change is permanent. Okay? I don't care how long you live on this planet. Life is always evolving. Life is always moving. We have so many changes. You think about the little everyday changes we have. So we got, change of time. You got the change of seasons. You got the change of diapers for babies. There's always some change going on, family. So when you think about it, why do we fight change so much if we know it's inevitably going to happen? So some of the things we got to think about when it comes to change so we can get used to it. Because I want us to be able to flow in the change. I want us to be able to pivot immediately when life is asking and requiring for us to change. So we got to get used to it. So if we know it's inevitable, we know it's permanent, what can we do to embrace it? What can we do to accept it? And one of those many things we can do to accept it is knowing that it's going to continually be happening constantly. It never stops. Change is going to happen. I think about in the time frame that I've been living, we went from phones on walls to they actually had a phone that can sit on a table in your house. Ooh, sweet. Then we had those big old phones with the antennas on them. We thought we was doing some things then. And then they came out with the big old block phones that cost you, $25 a minute. And we thought we was doing it. And now they got these wonderful cell phones now that is phenomenal. But guess what? All that change happened without my permission. They didn't ask for my opinion of if they wanted life to change. They changed it for me. And guess who had to adapt to all that change? It was me. And you too. Change is going to be constantly, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Change is going to happen from January to December. Change is going to happen from 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. Change is going to happen, fam. So since it's going to happen, what can we do to get ourselves accepting of it? What can we do to stop being so challenged by it when it comes? Don't always buck change when it comes because it happens for a reason. I might not always understand the reason when it first happens, but change is going to come. So let's look at some areas of where change takes place so we can prepare ourselves. Change comes to knowledge. Okay. Knowledge is always changing. Information is always growing. We're always learning at the speed of light. It's phenomenal how much information that we have at our fingertips, and it's overwhelming. And so since the change is going to happen, what I need to do is to monitor the amount of change that's taking place. But change in knowledge is going to happen. What I would love to happen is that we're always growing. The reason why we have all these wonderful different episodes of the Bacon Biz podcast is to always try to bring you something new and something fresh when it comes to knowledge of how to have a phenomenal life in all those wonderful areas. I love talking about, whether it's spirituality, whether it's mentality, whether it's, your physically. I want you to have your best way of you can have your body in shape that you've ever had it. We always want that. We all eventually dying, so our bodies is changing in that aspect. But guess what? We want to know what new supplements or what discoveries have they decided that's out there that's natural that can help us live our best life. So guess what? It's always knowledge in that. It's always knowledge in how can I have a better marriage. It's always knowledge on how can I raise my kids better. It's always knowledge in so many different areas. But what we got to do is ask ourselves, let me at least be able to control and monitor how much knowledge is going to happen that I have to change. But the change in knowledge is eventually going to happen anyway. So we got to embrace it. I'm 56 years old, and my interests in life have changed. I think about all of the times when I was growing up. I wanted to be a bartender. I wanted to be a photographer. I wanted to be an accountant. I wanted to be a DJ. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to be none of that stuff right now. It just happened in life that, guess what? As I've gotten older, as I've matured, as I've honed in on what it is that I'm gifted to do, my interests in life have changed. I went from I could be sitting on the couch just chilling to my beautiful wife, got us to get an RV in the last 4 years ago. We've traveled around the world a couple of times to different destinations. I thought I never would fly over the water. Travel is a big part of my life now. So that's how one of my interests have changed. And I can tell you so many other ways it's changed. But the interest of what I love to do and the things that I like in life has changed. So you always got to prepare yourself for that. You ain't going to always like the same thing all the time. As you mature and age, guess what? The change is coming. There's a change in values. Those things that we've talked about in previous episodes where values have changed over the course of time. I've always wanted to be healthy, but what does that look like now? I want a successful marriage. What does that look like now? My values, now my kids are getting older and all of them are basically out the house except my baby girl, and she's getting on that road soon too. You ask yourself, okay, what's the new values that I have? It was parenting, but my baby's is growing up now where I'm just their wonderful advisor. I'm still mom and I'm still dad. Don't get me wrong on that. But guess what? They in a new season of their life where, values have changed, where they might have depended on me a whole lot more, obviously when they were little. But now that the values are changing, we're trying to shift them to be the adults that God has blessed them to be. And that is a wonderful thing. But you ask yourself, what are the values that have changed in your life? Do you even have any values? That's a big one. Because if you don't decide what you want your values to be, you'll be all over the place. So you got to decide, man, what are my values? I might haven't had any values in the last, first age of my 20s or in my 30s, but it's time for me to finally sit down and say, what do I value in life? So I can have an aim, I can have a goal, I can have a direction of where I want my life to go. So values are big. Once again, as I continue to, confess to you guys this wonderful 56 years of aging, this body is changing. I am aging gracefully, but guess what? It's still aging. Okay, it's on the other side of the hill. Yeah, there's no getting around it. So I have to prepare myself for the change that's happening. I can let my body change and go downhill super fast if I'm not eating the right things or doing any kind of exercise or getting any kind of rest. But I have to take the time and say, you know what? I want to age gracefully. And how does that happen? I have got to change my outlook on how I handle my health, because it started with, let me say some of the little things. Well, I stopped eating fried food. That was a big one. pulling out the dairy as much as possible. It goes back to what new supplements and what new natural remedies are out there that I'm applying to my life that's helping me change for the better. Because one of my new supplements, my new things that I'm doing currently is I'm using hawthorn berry in my teas that I'm drinking. And hawthorn berry is supposed to help you with your blood pressure regulation. And speaking from experience, my blood pressure has went from the 140s over 90s to 120s over 80s. And we're talking about the low 120s over low 80s. And it's all because of the hawthorn berry, because I'm not doing anything that much drastically different. It's just adding in that wonderful berry that nature makes that is so good for your blood pressure. So I highly suggest you do some studying on some hawthorn berry for those of you that have high blood pressure, and implement that into your daily dietary needs. So that would be super important. The family dynamics change a lot. Went from being married to divorced to remarried. Went from the birth of one child to having 2 kids to 3 kids to, Lord have mercy, when by it's all said and done, 15 of my babies that I love calling me daddy, and I love calling them my babies. Yeah, it was always the dynamic of family dynamics change. You know, when me and my wife got married, she had 2, I had 6, that made 8, and then we added on 7 more. And that was a wonderful time in our lives to have all of those kids in our lives. It was a blessing. But that was one of those wonderful dynamic changes that happened that we had to say, you know, we're going to embrace this. We're going to love every minute of it. And yes, did we have struggles? Oh, yeah, we ain't going to lie to you and say it wasn't challenging. But we can all look back on it, the kids and me and my queen, and say, man, it was one of the most phenomenal times we ever had in our lives. But we never guessed that family dynamic was going to change like that, you know, when we was just getting married. So that was wonderful. Family. These are the things that you got to be preparing yourself for. The people that I love that's around me that's older, you know, my uncles and my aunties, and those that are about to, you know, transition their way over to the next side of life. We got to prepare for that change. You know, the people that you love ain't always going to be there. And that's one of those things that's hard to accept. But we have to be to the point of saying, you know what, eventually that is going to happen. What I want you to do, though, before that happens, is I want you to really appreciate the people that's around you, that's in your life, and love them to the best of your ability. When I say love the people that you love, I want you to love them in spite of their opinions, because they deserve to be loved. That's hard sometimes, because when people have opinions of you, it's hard to still love them in spite of. But what we still want to do is love the people that's closest to us, enjoy them while we can, because there will be a transition period as we continue to get older, that people are departing from this wonderful world, and we won't ever see them again. And I always want to ask you, is the things that we arguing about, is it really worth them leaving this planet? And me not getting a chance to say I'm sorry or I love you, I want to really show you how much I appreciate you from everything that we've been through together, and the good times and bad times we've had. But it's all been beautiful, because it was all part of change in our lives. You're going to change friends, family. Many of friends. I always think about my kids during these times, because this wonderful season that we're in is graduation time. And a lot of people, when they was in high school, man, you had hundreds of friends. It was amazing how many friends you had when you was in high school. Soon as you graduate high school, that dips dramatically. Yeah, no, that's dramatically and drastically at the same time. It dramatically dips down to about 10 people out of that hundreds of people that you had as friends. Yes, friendships throughout your lifetime is going to change. Prepare yourself for that. It's going to be some good friends coming in, some bad friends leaving. It's going to be some bad people coming in, bad people coming out. But guess what? It's always consistently a lot of change. And then one of the last things I want to talk about is changing jobs. Man, if I was to sit back and think right now, I've had about 10 jobs in my lifetime. 10. And I usually have this little thing where every 4 years I have a tendency to, you know what, it's time to graduate from this one and go to the next one. And so my jobs are always changing constantly. But guess what? You have to prepare yourself for change, whether it was I got laid off a job, whether I quit jobs, whether I transitioned at the jobs that I was at to a better position. But it was always change going on. Why is that? Because I want to be challenged when I'm doing what it is that God gave me the gift to do. I always want to be challenged. I never want to be satisfied with what it is that I'm doing. I want to constantly be challenging myself to see what else can I do? How much more can I learn? How much more deeper in love can I be with my wife and my kids? How much more can I take better care of my body? How much more money can I make? Family, I don't ever want to limit myself on what it is of blessings and resources that God wants to give me. But that requires change. Change is inevitable. So family, do me a favor, please. Don't fight it. Don't run from it. Don't deny it. All I want you to do is embrace it and say to yourself, okay, this is just another thing that has to be changed. And usually there's always something beautiful behind each change, even though the ones I'll usually fight have been some of the best changes that's ever happened in my life. So family, do me a favor. Stop running from these wonderful things that's going to happen anyway and embrace it. This is your boy, John Bacon, with another segment of Bacon Bits. I love you guys. God bless. All right. What's up, family? It's your boy, John Bacon from the Bacon Bits podcast. Thank you so much for your support, likes, and ratings. Please don't just listen, but rate me, follow me, and subscribe. This is an amazing way to offer free support. My beautiful queen and I have some books that we have written for your growth.
So the first book we have is a workbook, actually. It's called Healthy Relationships, and this is a workbook through the lens of faith. Because what makes a relationship healthy or unhealthy? So this workbook is designed, it's a 12-week, it's a biblically grounded course, and every week has a few different principles. So some of our principles, some of our topics that we're covering are respect, cultivating security. And this is not just between a husband and wife. This is between parents, between siblings, between friends, between your bosses, employers. So it's really important, and everyone deserves a healthy relationship.
And also we have The Balanced Life by John Bacon. It covers how to be prosperous in your finances, relationships, your health, your mind, and your spirit. So you can pick that up on Amazon, also on audiobook. And we also have
The Unraveling, a creative healing journal, pinings, poems, prayers, and ponderings of my precarious life. I've had a testimony of I've had 2 brain tumors and 2 brain surgeries, and I'm super grateful, but I'm still grieving the process of healing. And this is part of the process. In this book, you have devotionals, you have prayers, and you have some ponderings. And in between these pages, there's a space for you to also be prompted to paint and to create your own, or maybe you want to write something in these books. This is part of your creative healing journal that we get to walk through together.
And you guys can just head over to Kingdom Servants First. Kingdom Servants, the number 1 st.com, and you can purchase all 3 of these books. Thank you for your support, your love, and your contributions. God bless.